Gentlemen, it's 7 p.m. We'll call the meeting to order. Would you please rise for the pledge and flag? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our first item of business is announcements. The one prepared announcement is that the Brownell Library will have one-on-one appointments available on the second Monday of each month with Maria Solquesta from The Point, part of the United Way of Rhode Island, to assist residents in making informed choices and decisions regarding many publicly funded programs and community resources. You're asked to please contact the library for information about scheduling an appointment. That number is 8562. Are there any other announcements that need to be made? Hearing none, next item is the approval of minutes of August 22nd.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The next are the department head reports. We have reports from the town clerk, the fire chief, the administrator, the building and zoning official, and the tax assessor.
To approve all the department head reports written.
Second. Motion's made and seconded. Go ahead.
Yeah, just pull, Tony, I'll just pull yours real quick. For the town paving, you got a request for Beta to come before the council. Is there a date imminent for that?
I would like to get, I'm trying to get the next meeting. There's, well, on my end, there's some urgency to get this, information out. So I'm going to request that he'll be.
Office of Healthy Aging says you went to a August 5th in-person meeting in their office at Cranston. See the state grant. How much is that? Was that
8,500.
Is that what it was last year?
No, it increases every year by, I want to say 20%.
And lastly, this Christine Shea, the architect. You guys had a meeting with Dean Bob to review, discuss the meeting hall, PW building. In future meetings, I like being invited to that.
So that's the old fire station.
No, that's the
One.
the former police station, the meeting hall.
Okay. And the DPW building, which is that the new one?
No,
No, that's the old fire.
fire. So she, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Christine, Shay.
No, I'm not, but I just want to make sure because I'd asked the last meeting that we do an RFP on both buildings.
And what she's doing is they come in with a proposal for feasibility study so that we can look at the buildings,
Okay.
and then we'll identify the needs and
Okay.
whether there's potential on both buildings, what the potential is, and, how can it be retrofitted and so forth.
Good. Okay, thank you.
You seem to be well tuned to what it was that we were looking to do. She was prepared to offer us
Good.
those kind of opportunities. So I think that would be good. Is there any other comment or question? Are you ready to vote? All in favor of placing the reports on file, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The next is old business. The first item of old, this is continued discussion regarding the ordinance adopted on July 25th, 2024. As you may recall, the Attainable Housing Ordinance, Chapter 18, needed ratification of the wording and accept any further direction from the solicitor from his closer review of the matter. And
Well, I have taken that close review. The suggested changes, some come from Mr. Anderson. They were grammatical in nature, correct characterization. Starting with B, 1B, there was a deletion of including a suitable mechanism. That was changed to the extent permitted by applicable law, but in no event less than 99 years. Provided further that the deed restrictions, and it goes on in 1 and 2. That was the first one. The second one is in subsection C on page 2. Together with one of the following processes, changed to a special use permit. Allow up to 4 units of attainable housing may be granted by the planning board under unified development, subject to the standards set forth below in subsection D. The planning board suggested in subsection C while we're there that the two be flipped. Subdivision was first, now it's in second place. Special use permit is in one. And that was for clarification purposes. I agree with that, and the planning board does too. The final one, oh, that's it. The rest of the ordinance is the same as you see. It is in good order. I recommend that you ratify it. Answer any questions you may have.
I'll make a motion to ratify this.
Second.
Made and seconded to ratify. Are there in fact any questions? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. A great achievement and one that underwent careful scrutiny, and I think it's the right way forward. The next item of business is to receive recommendation from myself with respect to filling the vacancy on the pension committee of a member at large due to the recent resignation of Mr. Mara. I have no recommendation yet in that the sole applicant whose schedule did not work with the pension committee, I have now conveyed back to him the fact that we can modify the schedule, the day of the month and the time of day to some extent. And have wondered if he is still interested. I've not gotten his response. He is the sole applicant for that vacant position. I will say that if in the public there is another person who wishes to apply, that obviously remains open. I hope to be able to come back to you with that or another applicant's name at the next opportunity. Any questions?
You want a motion to table it until you come back with something, or you just want to let it?
No, Ed, we can carry it forward, I think.
All right.
It's old business already, so. Yep. The next item is an update of the status for remediation of the fire deficiencies noted in a fire inspection completed the 2nd of July at 32 Commons. So town administrator would summarize the kinds of initiatives that have already been taken with respect to those repairs.
I've been in contact, thank you. I've been in contact with Steve Madden Electric. They will be, doing the work that needs to get done on their end. They'll do that. Crescent Alarms, likewise. Both of them came in and we met. The plumbing, Sakana Plumbing. At this point, he doesn't see that there's need for any items that he needs to move forward on that agenda. So, but the two individuals above, Madden Electric and Crescent Alarms, be addressing that. Aside from that, President Martian and I sat down and looked over the report to create an assignment, or assignments, I should say. There's other items that need to move forward, and we'll continue to do that.
So I looked over this and there's some stuff that I guess the maintenance guys, if they have time on a rainy day, could probably do it. A broken door closure, public door handle, portable fire extinguisher out of date. I mean, a fire extinguisher is about $30. So combustible material attached to the walls in the boiler room. I don't see why they couldn't take care of that.
Mhm.
And storage in the boiler room, same thing. They could remove that. I actually talked to Bob. I said, Bob, if this isn't getting done, maybe you and I could take a walk down there and do something. We discussed it today. We didn't have time to do it today, but if the maintenance guys don't have time to do it, Bob and I will probably go down there and clean some of this stuff. So at least it looks like to the state that we're trying to do something so we don't get in trouble with the state for being derelict on our duties.
I think we move in the right direction right now with the items here. I did speak with Curtis about.
Okay, good.
There is AC units in boiler room, so they need to be removed. So
Okay.
there's some things
Yeah.
that we will be getting done.
Okay.
That's the purpose of this meeting was create an assignments so that things can get done.
Okay, very good.
Did you talk to the electrician about the MC cable and the fire alarm system?
That was a Crescent Alarms. Both of them are weighted in and that. We're talking about some, they're gonna have to come back with a proposal.
It's gonna be quick.
That is a lot more than what we can do immediately, but it will have to be addressed.
Is it similar to what was done here in the town hall with?
Yeah, it's gonna be in metal clad. It can be
Yeah.
in conduit, it can be metal clad cable, but it just can't be open wiring.
You're right on target. That's exactly where Crescent Alarms told me. It says you're looking at something more than just a Band-Aid.
It's gonna take a new panel. It's gonna take all new wiring.
They probably can't hear you.
Can't hear you. No.
You need to be
How was our
louder.
volume?
Can people hear? No. I didn't. You talk too softly.
Well, it's the first time I've been accused of that, by the way. Talking to-
Very quiet tonight.
No, just anything in a fire alarm system in a commercial building has to be in metal clad or steel conduit. It's just a fire code recommendation from the NFPA.
And Crescent Alarms, we're just going to put together a proposal to come back as to what the cost will be to upgrade the system.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Do we have an estimate for the overall, I mean, there were 16 or 18 things. What is the estimate of the cost to renovate all of these things?
I can answer that.
Or 19 deficiencies.
That's the purpose of us bringing in the architect to do a feasibility study to come back with some numbers.
Yeah, I missed some of that.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
All right. The next item is an update on the status of a proposal to establish a historical preservation advisory committee. Counselor McHugh.
Yes, so the Historical Preservation Advisory Committee, Bob and myself went through the applicants that sent letters. And we're going to recommend to the council today to vote on a 7-member committee. There's 2 vacancies. The 7 members are a historian, a commons owner, an Adamsville owner, a preservationist, Secana Point owner, and 2 at large. So their charges are going to be action item 8C2.A in the town comprehensive plan, and also implement a voluntary historic building plaque program. Those people for consideration tonight by the council. Historian is Marjorie O'Toole. The commons owner is Leslie Fox. The Adamsville owner is vacant, as is the Secana Point owner. We only got 1 letter there. The preservationist is Clark Chattel. I think I'm saying that right. At large is Mike Folcarelli, and at large is Ara Sardin Dance. I'm sorry if I don't say that one correctly. So there's a motion. I'll make a motion to accept this 7-member committee, 5 named, 2 vacant, and ask for more solicitation for the 2 vacancies in the Adamsville and Secana Point.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Motion is seconded. Go ahead. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ara, thank you for bringing this forward and shepherding it, and we look forward to the progress of the committee as it does its work. Thank you. The next item is to consider next steps in the hiring of a director of public works.
I spoke to the solicitor on this, to see if he'd come back with some kind of language that, would satisfy town. So my thought was to hire Ted Boddington and have a stipulation that he couldn't, bring any commercial trash on his own to the transfer station, and to be under the direction of the town administrator for anything that he has to go to the transfer station with, such as a repair, or if there's an emergency over there, he has to go over there and take care of it. The solicitor wants to expand on that for me.
Does the motion have a second? Second. Thank you.
Okay, the point that I originally raised had to do with Mr. Boddington taking trash to the transfer station. If that doesn't happen, that eliminates the conflict. I think that the additional build-in that he'd be under the supervision of another town official, namely the town administrator, for anything that he would do over there, and have a specific list of functions that he does. Makes it so that he would not have that conflict if that's what the council wants to do.
Any other discussion?
I just think it's a can of worms,
Would be.
you know, because I mean, our direct question to you was, oh, I gotta talk out loud, sorry. During our discussions, we asked you if, what do you think his chances are with the Ethics Commission? You said not good.
That's correct, yes.
So, I mean, what are we doing?
I think what we're doing is proposing a solution to the immediate problem is that we don't have a director of public works. And to be fair, in terms of level of knowledge, we haven't had one for some time. And therefore, this is to put in place a person who has a circumstance that makes him ineligible for certain functions that we want to hire for. And we're going to hire him for all the other functions and put him under the administrator's purview for the remaining function.
See, the issue raised was taking trash to the transfer station. So he'd be taking the commercial trash there. And he also essentially has supervision over that. That's the issue that I cited. If the stipulation is that he doesn't do that, then there's no conflict.
Yes,
Yeah, I was a building official for 9 years in another town. And I had a lot of friends that were building officials. And in the earlier days, a lot of the building officials were builders in their town. The only stipulation was that builder couldn't inspect his own work. So they would call in another building inspector from an adjacent town. So this has happened before in small towns. You often have people who are in business in that town. They just have someone else inspect it. Or in this case, have someone else take care of that portion of his work. That's all.
thank you.
Yes.
Any other discussion? Yes,
I know I'm not going to make myself lovable by other people, but your recommendation is that he himself can't drive the trash there, or his company cannot bring trash there to the transfer station?
I was thinking he himself couldn't bring it over there as long as. he
You're not
wasn't
taking the
about-
conflict away if that's the case.
Well, he's not gonna go out of business. I mean, this job isn't financially feasible for him to put his business.
Does he own the company?
Yes, he owns the company. Need I remind those who may have been here when Adolf Haffenraffer was the highway supervisor? And he owned the company that did most of the work. And Ethics Commission made him step down from that position because they said he couldn't own the company that was doing the work for the highway department and be the highway supervisor. This is the same mentality. And I realize I'm not going to be loved for making this statement, but you have a conflict. And I do not understand why you are pushing this until he at least gets an opinion that says, okay, we agree you don't have a conflict.
I think the purpose in doing it this way is to put in place leadership in a way that we haven't had leadership. And we are free, obviously, in a probationary time period to say this isn't working for whatever reason. I don't think that there needs to be the imposition of a conflict, but I'm willing to be proven wrong. It's the fact that we have precious few people stepping forward to say, I'd like to do a job, and we're not able to fill the positions.
I would just say that, my conundrum with this whole issue is the advisory opinion. Am I willing to, hire Ted on a probationary period until he gets an advisory opinion? Maybe. But I think it all hinges on the advisory opinion.
Yes.
My name's Larry Anderson, and to Carol's point, I should disclose that I'll have to reference my brother-in-law. But at that time, the very reason that when we adopted the charter, we made a Department of Public Works was for this reason. I mean, that's why we put it in the charter, that there would be a separate department instead of an elected highway superintendent. And the tradition had been, that's how it worked in town for decades, that the highway supervisor was a local contractor. But that's the very reason why there's a public works director rather than an elected. However, I do think, with all respect, that the appropriate way to proceed is for Mr. Boddington to seek an advisory opinion, and perhaps there is a hardship provision, and I mean, there is a hardship consideration, isn't there, or exception that the Ethics Commission could consider, given the circumstances? I don't know. I mean, that's the only way he's going to have a clean hands in this matter, because someone could still file an ethics complaint.
Tony, what was the tree guy in Bristol that did the trees for 30 years and the Ethics Commission finally said, no, you can't do that anymore?
Actually, I was on the council at the time when that happened. It was that he not only was the tree warden, but he was in conflict with removal of trees and some other stuff that just created a conflict, and eventually he had to step down. That was the first time that somebody questioned that. Unfortunately, it was me.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Ethics Commission is supposed to reconvene this month, September.
Correct, yes.
So if he puts in a request, potentially he could have one sometime, maybe October, if they act on it. Right?
That's accurate.
Okay. You have been living with the lack of strong personality in that position for quite a length of time. Is 6 more weeks really too long of a time to expect? If you could wait.
Well,
I'm not interested in answering that particular question.
I'm sorry,
No, I
I
appreciate,
agree with.
as I always do, I appreciate your input.
That was
I'm,
the reasons I brought up the problems with the fire station. The Grange, that there's a fire extinguisher down there that's been known, it's out of date for the last month. We have a maintenance department in
Can I
town.
stop you?
Okay, and I'm just.
You're gonna go down a path that is not posted,
Okay,
and
but I'm just
we
saying.
all know your feelings.
Right.
Again, I'm not gonna be a likable person right now.
Mhm.
Forcing someone into this position who has known potential problems, just because of that reason, is not sufficient. You have 5 members in your council that could step up and say, hey, this needs to be done. You have a town administrator who'd step up and say, this needs to be done. I'll stop talking now and I'll go back to my role as clerk, but you know where I stand.
is there a member of the council who would be willing to serve in the capacity of Director of Public Works in a non-compensatory fashion?
I would.
Are you gonna be down there at 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock in the morning, meet them, set them up their work schedules,
Okay.
get them going. And then any complaints, issues, or anything the painting department needs done via the council or the public or the town administrator would come through me. It just puts me in a bit of an awkward spot because I'm working for the administrator and I'm his boss. So we just got to make that clear and in the open that I will respect your authority when it comes to the DPW position.
Isn't that a conflict?
Okay, Sal.
What is your pleasure with a motion on
There's
the,
a motion on the table.
all in favor of the motion to assign Ted Boddington to the position signify by saying aye.
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 The motion those who are opposed signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Nay. The motion carries on a vote of 3-2. Ted Boddington is appointed the Public Works Director for the town.
Is it interim or is it not interim? It's just the Public Works Director.
think it should be on a temporary basis until he gets his,
Yeah, should add a probationary period,
probation,
He gets his-
until he gets his, ethics.
Just while
advisory opinion.
we're on this, don't we have an RFP out? People take the position full-time yet?
I was waiting for today's meeting.
Well, I still want to go forward with that,
Okay.
because if it comes back, he can't do it, then we're sitting here in the same situation all over again. So,
That is part of the motion.
so do you need a motion to do that? I thought we did that last meeting.
We
You-
did,
You did vote the last meeting that it was supposed to be advertised again.
right.
Just saying.
So we don't need a motion to do it. We've
No,
already
Then
approved it.
carry forward.
Do we want to change our motion and add the language?
Make it cleaner.
You want to do it? You made the motion.
I'm not sure what the motion that I made was before, but it was, to hire Ted Boddington as a, DPW,
Probationary status.
on a probationary status as DPW director, and anything to do with the transfer station has to come under the direction of the town administrator.
So it's a temporary position, a probationary position.
He did say probationary,
So in 6 weeks, we can bring him back in here.
if that's their probationary period.
Should we set a probationary period?
I think we can bring him in anytime we want. I think what we're trying to do is wait till he gets his opinion from the ethics. And then if it comes back negative, we got to let him go. If it comes back positive, we'll put him on full time. We need somebody in there as a DPW director.
Let's give him a little bit of a timeline here, so he does it.
Well, I would add that he needs to get his advisory opinion ASAP.
Well, I've got an advisory opinion, so don't think you're going to go up there and knock on the door and say, okay, I need an advisory opinion. It takes months.
I've also had an advisory
Right.
opinion, and it took 6 weeks.
Let me make a suggestion. Why don't you just set a deadline to file for the advisory opinion? So, it's difficult, to put the burden on someone applying for the advisory opinion to have it come back at some time.
What I meant,
What
actually.
you can do is say, you've got to file for your advisory opinion by this date.
And file for the advisory opinion before next council meeting, which would be 2 weeks.
And is that motion seconded?
Second.
The motion then before us is to appoint Ted Boddington as the probationary Public Works Director. And that probationary period is 2 weeks from tonight, from today,
No,
which he must
That-
file.
Yeah, that, one sec. The probationary period was not given a length of time,
no.
but the deadline for him to file an advisory, request for an advisory opinion is 2 weeks.
Very well. Motion then is that he is hired in a probationary status as Public Works Director, and he has 2 weeks to file for an Ethics Commission opinion as to his ability to supervise the transfer station.
And if he doesn't have the job anymore.
If either of those requirements is not met, if he doesn't survive the probationary period or he fails to submit a request.
And don't forget the fact that oversight of the transfer station at this time will be handled by the administrator.
And oversight of the transfer station will be handled by the administrator, yes. Is there any question as to the motion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay. The motion carries and that's that.
Bob, can I ask how you voted?
I voted nay.
Onto lighter stuff.
The next item of business is a proclamation expressing the town's gratitude for the services of Tom Arkins and his crew and the team of volunteers who repaired the bridge in Wilbur Woods. And let me say that one of the key facets of implementation of this proclamation is the desire on the part of those who did contribute to this to be not specifically or personally recognized. So that's only testimony to the fact that what we've got is, I'll read the proclamation to you. The Town Council is pleased to recognize the exceptional contributions of a host of people who worked together to build a replacement bridge in Wilbur Woods. Combined efforts of individual residents, town employees, volunteers, and construction workers under the supervision of Arkins Construction has resulted in a magnificent and sturdy structure which will serve the community for many years to come. The efforts of this group represent the essence of the spirit of community which characterizes our town. That's the proclamation.
So I brought this to the council. The last council meeting, that the proclamation be written because I go to Wilbur Woods quite often. I was there when they were doing the construction, just finishing it, and they did a wonderful job. So I just want to commend them for doing such a good job. I think John Quinn is here. Is he? No, I thought I saw him.
Ask them if they want to do the washing and records.
There were no bidders.
So I want to thank them. They did a wonderful job, and it's nice to see the community come together and do something like that for the benefit of the whole town.
Is there a motion to execute this proclamation?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Thank you. The next item of business is to consider whether the council wishes to request a meeting with Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management to discuss the town landing project and status. Lister, would you have an advice here?
You have a letter from the building official. The only thing that I would add is that under the memorandum of understanding that was executed by the parties.
He's on the wrong.
Oh, you're on the.
You're on
wrong
one.
side. You've moved ahead.
You went to new business one. I'm on old business.
Town landing.
I beg your pardon. Yeah, I do actually. I'd like to take another crack at this, but I have a suggestion. I would like the authorization from council to be that I meet with the legal counsels, the DEM on this issue. The only outstanding issues are legal in nature, and I'd like an opportunity to discuss with DEM legal counsel the underlying legal issues in this matter. And I think they need to be addressed and disposed of. We've had meetings with DEM, and they do have their procedures. I can't say that they've said anything that they haven't said in other matters of this nature. But this is a unique property with a unique background. And I would like the opportunity to discuss that with DEM legal counsel and be authorized to do that if the council would allow me to do so.
Tony, have you spoke with DEM's legal counsel yet
I have, yes.
on this issue?
I want to discuss it with them further.
Motion to allow the solicitor to talk to DEM, discuss town landing, and get back to the council with his recommendation.
I'll second it.
Like the DEM legal counsels.
The DEM legal
I'll
counsel.
second.
The motion is made and seconded. Is there any comment? Is there any public comment?
I've got a comment.
Go ahead.
Public. Are we opening ourselves to any kind of litigation from the state? Like,
No,
because we put in a application that wasn't quite correct.
no comments.
Yeah,
Not sure.
that's what I thought. I was a nay vote on doing this before, so. Anyway, motion's made and seconded, boss, unless anybody
Is
else.
there any public comments that someone wishes to make? Thank you. All in favor of the motion as stated signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any?
Sorry about that. Is there a time that you're gonna come back with this? You know,
I don't think so.
4th,
I'm going to try my best.
6th,
Why don't we just make it one,
Put down and just status in 4 weeks.
status in 4 weeks.
Yes.
Include that on the motion, please.
So the motion that is under consideration is amended to apply a 4-week timeframe in which a status report from the solicitor will be expected.
Now, so I'll amend my motion to those words.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor of the amended motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you.
Tread lightly, Tony.
The next item of business is an entertainment license application received from Dionysus Acquisition LLC, Secana Vineyard, requesting 4 events with live acoustic music and harvest demonstrations from 1 to 4 p.m. on Saturdays, September 14th, 21st, 28th, and October 5th. In your packet is included a copy of the zoning official's opinion. What is your pleasure with respect to this item? May I say to you that a facet of this is the fact that the Agricultural Conservancy Trust, which has either ownership or development rights for portions of the property that are part of this proposal, have not yet had a meeting in which this was on the agenda. The intention of the Ag Trust is that they will schedule a special meeting to consider this. So any motion that is made with respect to this approval or disapproval would be contingent upon the fact that the Ag Trust have an opportunity to either vote in support or have issue with this.
Right, motion to approve contingent upon the Ag Trust outcome, meeting's outcome, whether they're positive or negative for it. That work?
That's fine.
I'll second that so we can get discussion because I know people in the audience that want to discuss it.
Okay. The motion then is made and seconded that the council approve the application of an entertainment license subject to approval from the Agricultural Conservancy Trust at a yet to be scheduled meeting. Yes, ma'am.
So, Natalie Eliason, 21 Berkshire Avenue. And here with some. So I appreciate that you have acknowledged that the LCACT could not discuss this and that your decision is contingent upon their decision because that's important. As we know, the vineyard has not held a license for a couple of years. They applied in 2022 when they pulled it. So for 4 or more years, we had a natural soundscape at night. Peace, tranquility, birds, bees, etc. I think most people in this room know how important that natural soundscape is for the humans that live near the vineyard, but more important for the organisms that live in the Watson Reservoir ecosystem. We have bald eagles, we have ospreys that hunt there, migrating ducks and geese, deer, coyotes, and on and on and on. The new vineyard manager, Marissa, and her husband James seem to have good intentions and have expressed that they care about the vineyard neighbors and would like to take the vineyard back to the days when it was part of the community. A vineyard that is more focused on winemaking and not merely focused on being a concert venue feels more doable for our community. Acoustic or mildly amplified concerts in the courtyard are more in keeping with what was done when the Sampsons owned the vineyard and we didn't hear a thing. Although this all sounds wonderful, we are still cautiously optimistic because the owner of the vineyard is still Carolyn Rafaelian. She hasn't earned our trust because she did not operate in good faith. We were locked in a years-long mediation and arbitration because she refused to turn down the music and did not care about her neighbors or how they felt about her loud, obnoxious concerts. As a result of the mediation and arbitration, the vineyard and the vineyard neighbors paid for an acoustic expert to study concerts at the vineyard. David Coe developed a distributed loudspeaker system that would enhance the concert attendees' experience and would improve community noise for the neighbors of the vineyard. The vineyard declined to implement the distributed loudspeaker system as agreed. The town council repeatedly refused to make the sound attenuation system a requirement of past vineyard entertainment licenses, even though section 6-7.4 of the entertainment license ordinance states that reasonable efforts shall be made by the licensee to project noise away from the abutting property owners, and noise mitigation techniques and devices shall be used where appropriate and as may be required by the town council. The judge in the case said that he could not force the vineyard to put the sound attenuation system in. He said that our recourse was with the town council and their ability as a town body to impose on the entertainment license noise attenuation. Now, our sincere hope is that Marissa and James will be true to their word, and the 4 vineyard events they've planned will be acoustic or mildly amplified. There will be no impact on the neighbors that live in the vicinity of the vineyard. But if the 4 concerts disturb our peace and tranquility, like it did before, I would like to know what steps the council is going to take to protect the neighbors and the people that live in the vicinity of the vineyard that were impacted before.
Solicitor, if the Ag Trust does approve the use of the property for these entertainment licenses, are we going to be bound in the future to grant these licenses again if they come to us next year and ask for the same 4, or if there's a problem at the end of the season and they come back to us next year asking for this, can we then say, well, there was an issue last year, we don't feel comfortable doing it?
The answer to your first question is no, because the Ag Trust has a completely separate scrutiny and approval process than what you all do. That's the first thing. They have different factors that they take a look at. So you're not bound by what they do. The vineyard, however, needs approval from both bodies before it can go forward. And I have a further suggestion in answer to your second question, and one of the things that Ms. Eliason said. Because the vineyard has basically said this is almost an experiment on this, that if you are to grant these licenses, that first you make them subject to the conditions as set forth in section 6-7.4 of the license, particularly subsections B, C, and D, E. And I think F, G, and H and I, they already comply with, or I in particular doesn't apply here because they're asking between 1 and 4. That's the first thing. The second condition should be that if there's issues at the first one, that the license will be reviewed at the next council meeting. And I think that that comports with what the vineyard is asking for, but it's also comports with what the neighbors are talking about on this. In other words, if this is to be an experiment to see how this lightly amplified acoustic music has an effect on the neighborhood, that you will have the ability to take a look at it. Even though you're approving 4, you can jump in the middle of it and say there's issues here. Either this can't happen, you need to make modifications.
Well, that was my thought. We could revoke their license if they do the first one and there's a justified complaint. Now, it's just a complaint and they go way over the DB level, because that's how we're doing it now, by a DB level. Then that'll be it. They'll have their one and they won't have any more. Is there anybody from the vineyard here to speak on this?
Absolutely.
Do you want to get up to the podium and try to explain exactly what you're going to do so the audience knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll keep it brief because I know that a lot of us have talked about this before, but yeah, we're very sensitive to the concerns of the past. And, I think that this is a very different concept. Like, the focus of these events is not live music. The reason for the application is that we do want some live music as like a background thing. We're going to move it into the courtyard. It's not in the middle of the field We're not using the huge speakers. Certainly I've read the sound attenuation plan, and that sounds like a lot more speakers. It's an interesting concept, but for us, this idea of let's have one event and see how it goes, and if it's loud, we revoke it. That would be fine with us, because I'm very confident that there's not going to be a lot of noise. We're talking about a little jazz trio, maybe a acoustic songwriter guy in the corner of a courtyard surrounded on three sides by buildings, which in your direction, sorry, Natalie, is, there's a building blocking that. And it's from 1 to 4. It's not at 8 o'clock at night on a Sunday night. So we're trying to limit the hours. It's not the concert series of 2016. This is really just background light entertainment like you had for decades in the past. And so let's try it out. Let's see how the community responds, and we are open to anybody's concerns. And if it's like, no, we don't like this, then we'll stop doing music. We're a farm. That's the main thing. Entertainment is great to have people come and stay and spend a little bit more time, but it's not the most important thing to us. And I think that's what we've been trying to communicate to everyone. This is the process. So we're here going through it. So it feels like we're trying to have another concert series, but that's not at all the case. We just want to stay communicative with the town, with the neighbors, that we want to bring people in. We want to do harvest. We want to have harvest demonstrations, tours of the vineyard, and a little bit of light music in the background. And we're taking that into the courtyard where I think there'll be natural sound attenuation. And so any kind of contingency that the council would like to put on it, we're totally fine with. This is an experiment this year, and we're trying to figure out how to forge a way for the future. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you for the time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's tough not to like that gentleman, isn't it?
Yeah.
My name's Larry Anderson. I've worn different hats in regard to this issue it's almost 10 years now. If I just, for the purposes of what's going on now, this license application has a duration. I mean, it's a late application for this year's entertainment license. Is that right? So, and it's the request is for events. So this license is going to expire at the end of the period, at the end of November.
Mhm.
So, if the vineyard wants to continue with entertainment of any kind, of any scope, any scale, they're going to have to come back with you in a few months, one would hope, in a timely way. I mean, one of the issues is, and I appreciate the situation we're in, you're coming into this in a year. So they're doing what they can with the time frame that they're faced with. But they have to come back and start all over again with another application describing the scope of their events. And as Mr. Sisto points out, the council retains the ability to require stricter conditions, including a robust sound attenuation system that, without going into the whole history of this, the council was part of a memorandum of understanding that called for arbitration on issues, including the sound system. You know now more, you have the benefit of that information now, however complicated it is. So the town is in a position to with the information that they have from expert consultants to require stricter conditions next year, whoever the council is. So the use, I won't get into that question. I will note that this is the fifth zoning official to provide an opinion on this question since in the last 10 years, and each one is each one is somewhat different. So this is zoning official's opinion is somewhat different in kind here, because he's looking at the use under the current zoning issues. He's not talking about historical uses or pre-existing non-conforming or whatever. So it's a somewhat different response. But the point is, you get you get another crack at this in 2 months if they come back with another proposal, and you can put all kinds of conditions on it.
Yes.
Amy Berry, 120 West Main Road.
Can you go to the podium, please? You're talking to, yeah. Thank you.
Amy Berry, 120 West Main Road. Well, the presentation from the Vineyard sounds really nice and really pretty. We've heard these words before, and with all due respect, I'm sure their heart is in the right place, and I hope so, and I hope their business does well. However, from the 4 or 5 different legal representatives of the Vineyard have all said the same exact story. The prior managers have all said the same exact story. And I mean, shame on me for being skeptical, but I feel like we're stuck in the Groundhog movie, and we're just going to keep repeating the same thing over and over, expecting different results. Now, the size and scale sounds wonderful. However, in the license that was submitted, they're seeking approval for 400 or 300 parking spaces. That's quite a large crowd. Now we're putting the music venue in an area that is surrounded on 3 sides by structures. Now, if anyone is a basic student of physics, you would understand that that is going to amplify the sound because the sound is going to bounce off and project forward. If we're planning on amplifying the sound in addition to being in essentially a shell-like structure, which is going to project the sound more, now we're just back to square one again. I think the council is in a unique position to be able to perhaps even hold the Vineyard to a higher bar and impose strict conditions. And assuming that the Vineyard then is able to abide by these conditions and earn our trust, then you can start to ease on them down the road. But if we're just going to give them, a hope and a prayer and say, oh, this time you're going to do it right, I think we're just stuck in this hamster wheel again. So I would ask that, if the Vineyard wants to stick to its word and be good neighbors, why don't we condition these first 4 events on not being amplified at all? I think you can, project your voice and project music without the need of speakers. I think speakers are going to create the potential for conflict. And to Council Member Matruna's point, he is seeking that the, only justified complaints, are going to be entertained for revoking the license or imposing additional conditions. And I think that's a very subjective standard. What does that mean? What is a justified complaint? If the sound is only coming at my house and therefore I'm the only one impacted, is that not enough of a justification? Or, what exactly is that bar that's going to trigger review by the council as to whether or not they're complying with the license? So I would just ask that the council take a serious look at this. I know we're all optimistic and hoping that this time it's going to be different, but I'm very skeptical, and I hope that the council does take the concerns of the neighbors and the impact that the Vineyard has had on us seriously.
So if you could stay there for a second, if you could help me with this, and Natalie, I'm going to ask you the same question. What's your reasonable expectation on a Saturday from 1 to 4 with this event?
Ideally, I would like to not be able to hear it, or to hear it like very, very quietly in the background. I don't want to have to be at my barn or in my house and hear the music. I don't want to be in my yard and hear the music, quite frankly.
Maybe when the Sampsons had their concerts, they weren't really concerts. They were very quiet. We never heard a thing at our house. Maybe on a southwest wind with a, light wind with a flat calm reservoir, we hear like a little tinkling of music. That is, okay, but it's not okay for us to be in our yard and being lambasted with loud amplified music.
So you're closer?
Yes.
You're over the Watson Reservoir, right? You're closer.
I'm right on the other side of Manchester.
Expectation was what again? I heard yours. It was less than a tinkle or something like that. I heard that.
I would say, less than a tinkle at most. And the nice thing about the Sampsons is if, the music was audible, you could call them up and say, hey, can you turn the speakers? They would turn the speakers away from our house and we wouldn't be able to hear anything.
All right, so this gentleman, what's your first name again? I'm sorry.
James.
So James, I'm sure would take your call. James, I have a question for you. The stage.
Yeah.
What
plans do you have with the stage?
It's there's a lot of history regarding it being a stage. We don't call it a stage. It certainly wasn't conforming with the Ag Crest, being built as a stage. We're not using it as a stage. Currently, it's like a meeting point for agritourism to do tours of the vineyard and whatnot. We're not using that speaker system. There's when we're talking about these concerts, with respect and like, we haven't met before, and I hope that we can continue conversation. We don't need to do music. The point of this right now is we would like to, because there's such an outpouring of requests from locals, from people that come to the vineyard. They say, when are you going to do music again? That's an expectation that we have of our customers. It's what we're not going to do is the concerts that rocked everyone's world. We know what happened. We're not doing that.
So James, it's safe to say you're not going to have a band on the stage?
There's no, and I'm not going to call it a stage, but I understand that we're calling that the stage because it was a stage. It's not a stage anymore. There's no bands on that. What we talked about doing was something more acoustic, smaller, within the courtyard. And yes, an amphitheater is definitely that shape. But the volume, what we're talking about, we want people to be able to have a wine tasting, have a conversation. This isn't a concert like it was. This isn't the Alex and Ani concert series. This is Samson's. This is toned down, super quiet. And I know that there's so much apprehension about this because you guys have heard this all before. And so the only thing we can say is give us a chance. We're trying to make this a respectable place again to focus on wine, number one, the experience of the wine in the vineyard, the history of the place, not make it a concert series. You don't have to believe me right now. And we can totally say, let's not do it at all. We just won't have live music. We're still going to have a harvest festival. People are still going to come tour the vineyard, taste the wine, have local food. Like, there's no need for an entertainment license in that situation. All we want to do is have a little live music, not on a stage, but over in a corner, mildly amplified. When we say amplified, it's because you can't have vocals or you can't mix it in a way that you can hear it properly, like three people, like, you know what I'm saying? It's mildly amplified, not a concert. The point of it isn't that. Not everyone needs to believe what I'm saying, but I think that time will tell whether it's approved or not this year or next year, that our intentions are real, that our focus under Marissa and my management is that this is a vineyard thing, and that in the background, there's some entertainment at the vineyard for guests, but it's not the disturbance that we had. And so this is going to take time. If you give us a chance, I'm hoping that we all come to a place where there's the trust is regained. But we're not. If it's not right now, that's okay. If it's next year and we try, that's okay. We'd like to have some entertainment for guests that come. It's the biggest request that we have. But it's not a deal breaker for us. We don't have to have live music.
Yes.
We have a restaurant in East Greenwich. And the restaurant next door to us has live music. You don't need that with my.
Yeah, you do. I could not hear your backside.
Boy, that's.
I have to see your face, Val. See your face.
Sal Marinosi, I'm down on Townway and Oliver Lane. We have a restaurant in East Greenwich and it's on the water. And we're next door to Blue. And Blue has a lot more entertainment than we do. They've had to put sound curtains up to almost circumnavigate the area they're using their band in. And they still have a problem once in a while with their decibel level. We have acoustic groups on a weekend. You can't even hear our acoustic guitars going off in the street in front of the restaurant. And so I'm saying it depends on what the group is and what they're trying to achieve. I think these gentlemen know that we're watching and we're listening and she's listening. So I say give them a shot with one first, one license, just one time, and let's see how it sounds. and we go from there. And if they're on, they're on. And they have a lot to lose too. So I'm sure they're gonna get the decibels down and make everybody in the neighborhood happy. They'd be fools not to.
So I'm going to amend my motion to allow this to go forward to approve the entertainment license with the stipulations the solicitor suggested. And of course, these licenses come up for renewal in November. So if they're bad actors for these 4 events, they won't get it again.
Yeah, this license will not be,
Seconded, Carol?
Yeah. Patrick.
Yes, it did. So we
Yeah.
could have discussion.
if I can clarify, this motion, this license request is a temporary one, so will not be renewed in November.
Right. They have to come back for a new license in November.
And the original was actually recalled.
You're right with it. That's the motion.
That's the motion, and part of the discussion is if it goes south in the first one, we can say, okay, you're all done, you can't do the next 3.
That's always possible.
That's always possible. If it does get too loud, if something does go wrong, for whatever reason, I'll say, okay, you're done, you can't do it again.
Oh, can I just make a further suggestion? And I'm sorry about that. The first one is for September 14th.
Right.
Your next meeting is September 18th.
Right.
Set it down for a status then.
I'll amend my motion to include that.
Second. You have a comment over here.
Carol, what happens to the first motion now?
So you guys really should have amended the first motion. You've got too many on the floor.
I amended the first motion and I just said I
Yeah, but
amended it.
you didn't make the first motion, Paul did.
I did.
So he should have. been
Oh,
the
okay.
one
So
to amend
I amended,
Okay.
I amended to that.
it. Okay,
Please restate the motion once you.
yeah, that would be very helpful, wouldn't it? All right, I gotta use 2 pages here, hang on.
You know, you got you. You don't put your hand down. We got you.
All right, so the motion as it is amended now is to approve the entertainment license application from Dionysus Acquisitions LLC, doing business at Secundit Vineyards for an entertainment license with a stipulation set forth by the solicitor, which were contingent upon the conditions set forth in Town Code, Chapter 6, 7.4, specifically B, C, D, and E. And that if there are issues with the September 14th event, this matter will be revisited at the September 18th meeting.
All right. That's the motion that's been made. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Yes.
So as Amy said, we have PTSD from everything that happened before. And again, I want this to work in a positive direction, like we wanted all along. But I do want to say that these trial concerts need to proceed without any intervention from any council members sitting on Berkshire Avenue to decide if it's loud or if it's not, and then call the vineyard and say, turn it down. We need to proceed without interference so that the people that live here and live near the vineyard and live on that side can decide if it really is too loud or not. And from what they describe, I don't think it's going to be, but there can be interference from people as has happened before. I just wanted to be on the record.
Can I add something as well? I think that within the language, to be fair to both sides, that we're still waiting, it's contingent upon the ag trust decision to allow it forward as well. So, you know, and I think that the reality of a September 14th event at this point is unlikely as well. So, you know, as far as scheduling and making it all happen, as a note for those people here in public, this isn't something that's just come out of the blue. We've been working on this for about 3 months. Back and forth within the bureaucracy of the town, in a good way, in a positive way. And that we are trying and openly communicating with everybody about it. But just, you know, however you vote today, like we know that this is contingent upon the ag trust as well. And, you know, in this the reality is that it's probably not a September 14th, it's probably the following Saturday to be the first one. Just so for everybody to be on the same page.
Carol, I didn't hear the language about contingent upon
No,
it.
we didn't. I was just gonna say, he did remind us that that was in the original. And may I suggest, instead of it saying, after the first one on September 14th, maybe say after the first event, it will be revisited by the council?
Correct, yes,
Because that way, if it doesn't happen on September 14th,
correct.
it's nothing on the.
I amend my motion to such.
Larry Anderson.
Yes.
I did attend the Agricultural Conservancy Trust meeting last night, and I think there was, because they couldn't take it up.
They can't hear you in the back.
Yes.
Get out there.
I did attend the Agricultural Conservancy Trust meeting last night, and I think there was, it was explained that they didn't have the material in time to get it on their agenda, but I think they were pending, depending on what you did tonight, to make a good faith effort to hold a special meeting.
Yes,
To
that is in fact.
expedite this, depending on what you did. So I don't think they're trying to hang them out to dry. I think they're making a good faith effort to move it along, depending on what you guys do.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? May I ask one more time that we will vote?
All right, let's see. So the motion now reads to approve the entertainment license of Dionysus Acquisitions LLC, doing business as the Secundit Vineyards, with the stipulations suggested by the solicitor, which are: after the first event, there shall be a status update at the next council meeting. It's contingent upon the LCACT decision and expected approval. And I feel like I forgot something. I'm sorry.
The
Oh, here it is.
Put chapter and verse in there, so.
He did. I know. That's where I'm trying to find that. Oh, here it
It's a
is.
section 6,
Section 6
7.4.
of code, specifically B, C, D, and E are the conditions. Okay, I'm sorry. That will be much cleaner tomorrow after I listen to the tape. Do you all know that what you intended, though? I know I babbled, but you know what you're voting on?
Yes, what you just said captures it.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? Are you ready to vote on the motion? All in favor of the motion as recounted, signify by saying aye.
No.
Are there any opposed? Thank you very much for making this as clear, I believe, as we can be at this point in time. And appreciate the intentions that have been stated. And from my perspective, those intentions have demonstrated themselves to be in good faith. And so I look forward to that being the case in the as well.
Okay, sir. Moving on.
New business too.
The next item of business is a request from Chief Rains to extend part-time dispatcher Jennifer Adams to a full-time dispatcher status effective September 10th for a 6-month probation.
I'll move that.
Second.
The motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Thanks. And then the next is a request from Chief Petron for probationary firefighter Matthew Hughes to be promoted to firefighter 3rd class effective for September 20.
I'll move that also.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Then, as the Board of License Commissioners, the council is requested from the game club to approve a Class F1 one-day retail beverage license for a clam bake to be held on.
I'll move that too.
Motion made and seconded. Is there discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Are there any opposed? Next is an item of communication, which is a letter from Mrs. Passmore, who is with us, asking if a traffic study can be done for the flow of traffic around Pikes Peak. Also concerned that the Porta-John placement on the rec fields are not a welcome sight, and asks that fencing or movement might happen before the 350th celebration next year. Let me address the first one, the traffic study. A number of people have observed that with the new construction, particularly with now curbing on both sides of both legs of Pikes Peak, a revisit of the traffic study that was suggested but never consummated, actually probably 16 years ago, when we thought about how we might change the traffic flow. It appears to me that now is certainly the time to do that, and that the striping that has been inserted would obviously need to be modified, but that's a small price to pay if we get it right with the direction of traffic flow. So the chief of police and I are going to meet. We were to meet this morning. He was pulled away to something else. We're going to meet tomorrow morning, and he's going to describe for me his concerns and issues, if any, with how we would organize traffic in Pikes Peak. Obviously, return this to the council at a future meeting to say, here's what we propose. The process is that you need to go to the, remind me, the
Traffic Commission.
State Traffic Commission.
STC, State Traffic Commission, and obtain their approval. The last time it was turned down because we had no way for a tractor trailer to make a U-turn. That was at least the initial indication we got. There haven't been, I've been monitoring for tractor trailers in the Commons, not found any. Therefore, I believe we can probably fight that particular issue if that's what comes up this time. Suffice it to say, we'll go back with an honest request, and the town will have the opportunity, obviously, to comment on that in a public fashion. So as to the second piece,
Porta Johns.
Mr. Recreation Committee.
So, Ms. Pathmore, I welcome your Porta John comment. I used to be the head of the Porta Johns here in Little Compton some years ago. That's on my resume, and so I would order them, and and I hated the Porta Johns where they were. But when we put in the new field, we put irrigation in there, and we couldn't put the Porta Johns on a slab that was there because it was too close to the well. So they moved it behind the bleachers where the little league shed is, and that wasn't because it smelled. People were sitting behind. You couldn't put it there, and you couldn't put it too close to the food. So I hated it looking at it too. So I decided to move it in my capacity as a Porta John guy down by the swing set to the left, which I thought was perfect. But the school has a chain there, and they don't like moving that chain to get to the Porta John, to clean the Porta John. So that was an issue getting to the Porta John. And I couldn't get by that. You know, we have phones nowadays. Even back then we had phones that say, hey, I'm going to clean the Porta John, call the school. Didn't work. I tried my best. So I don't know what the Porta John issue is, to come to a conclusion.
That was the graduate level.
Graduate, you got it. So I moved on from Porta Johns. So it's back. So I'm happy to see what we can do with them.
So the second suggestion about the fence.
They
Maybe enclose it, right? But yeah,
put, we've done it around one of our restaurants because we have the marina there. We've put fencing. It's just a blind across.
but I think what the issue is where it's placed with the food, the people that are sitting, watching a game, and it has to be enough far away from the well. I think it's 100 yards or 100 feet, I forget. So there's a tight place there, you know, where are you going to put it? I've studied it. I've let it go now, but it's a placement issue there. The last time I looked at it.
Put a fence around it.
But so where are you going to place it and then put the fence around it?
There, we have no other alternative.
Perhaps the swing set, not where they are, but they have a fence. Thank you.
I don't have bad news, but with the celebrations, actually, it's going to call for more, I would see. So not only you're going to have two, with the amount of people around, it's going to require that you have additional. So that increases the issue. I mean, certainly we can look at it and see how they can be somewhat cover.
Understand that, but that's temporary.
Mhm.
Where these seem to be permanent. Even if they're on the side or something, but they're there.
It's not a good place to put them anywhere over there. If you find one, tell me.
Perhaps we'll ask the pickleball fundraiser folks to add.
Oh, I do have a recommendation.
Sidebar to
I
their,
do have a recommendation. I say we recommend this to the rec committee for their,
yeah.
what they think, they could consider something and recommend something to us.
Second,
The motion is made and seconded to refer this matter to the Recreation Committee for their recommendation as to how to solve the very egregious problem brought forth by Mrs. Passmore with respect to both the placement and the appearance of the porta johns. Is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you for good suggestions, both of them, and we're working them. Next item is a copy of a meeting notice of the Coastal Resources Management Council from October 15th at 6 p.m. to receive public comment regarding the operation and implementation of the Rhode Island Coastal Resources Management Council.
enlighten us, stuff.
Yes, most of the funding for CRMC actually comes from the federal government. Actually, 50% of their budget comes. And every 5 years, National Oceanographic Aeronautic Association.
No.
Administration, National Ocean.
That's a,
Atmospheric.
There you go.
that's a water line, sir.
But anyway, every 5 years, NOAA reviews CRMC because Rhode Island is a delegated state under the Coastal Management Act. This is a meeting for people to come and talk about how good a job CRMC is doing on the coastline.
Okay, thank you.
It's just an opportunity for like the wind turbine discussion.
What
Is that the time to bring that kind of thing up?
what you would do is it would limit you to CRMC's role in the approval process for the wind turbines,
Thank you.
but not to say I'm for wind power or I'm against wind power. It's just either CRMC did a good job in the regulatory process,
You're right.
or hopefully not, didn't do a good job.
Thank you.
When is this?
I don't know if I want to tell. It's
October 15th.
October 15th.
6 o'clock.
In Providence.
You gonna be in Italy?
Okay,
Do we have to take action or are we just gonna place it on file?
You just place it on file. It's a notice thing.
Motion to place on.
Second.
motion is made and seconded to place this item on file. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thanks. The next item is the consent calendar.
Motion to place consent,
Yes, sir. I'm sorry, it is.
motion to place consent calendar on file unless anybody wants to pull anything for discussion.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Finally, the payment of bills.
Motion to pay the bill.
Question on paying the bills. All in favor? Aye. There being no further matters before the council, declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. A very helpful discussion and conversation.